He'll be here. And Marty, too. And you had some pretty nasty weather out there.
Yeah, there's an EF4 that killed some people in
That Greenfield, or whatever it's called.
yeah, Western Iowa. Yeah, we had the reason I wasn't on because we had 5 different severe thunderstorm warnings that day.
Yeah, I saw.
It just kept
I was
coming
watching your local channel on the News On app.
Yeah, I mean, you get the south end of town where I'm at. It mostly missed it. North end got some damage. I was outside looking at my brand new fiber line, going like, "Okay, is this going to get snapped?"
So you did you guys have fiber and you just didn't get it? Now you do?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, expensive.
Oh, very much so. And I'm going to have to fix my wired network because for whatever reason, it's all 10 100 gig stuff, but
Yeah.
It's stuck at 100 megabits.
Yeah, you need a gigabit.
Yeah. So I need gigabit stuff that actually does the gigabit.
Yep.
Because I mean, I have either Cat 5. All my cabling is either Cat 5e or 6.
Okay.
So that should do the gigabit nicely.
Yeah. You just need everything up.
I just need to replace some switches.
Yep. The old switches. Yep. You have don't you have a which router do you have?
Eero.
You got the Eero, okay.
Eero Wi-Fi 6s.
You got the 6, okay. I
Yeah.
got 6Es.
Yeah. I mean, wireless, I'm getting rather good around 450.
Nice. Is AT&T?
No, we don't have AT&T. We have IMON.
IMON, okay.
Yeah. They came in because all the national companies wouldn't touch Dubuque.
Huh. It's a good sized city.
Yeah, but I mean, we had Quest. Quest didn't want to do residential. They currently offer 1.5 megabit DSL from like 1995.
God. There's Marty.
The Gencius is in the house.
Woo.
Okay, dude. You now have to wear that hat and those shades from that static picture. Those are badass.
We're from New Orleans. It was the day before we got shut down for COVID.
Oh,
so that I was there for a wedding, and I thought it would be very cool to get a hat. And my daughter shot that picture in Jackson Square, and we got out of there in a couple of days, and then everything was locked down within a week. So.
Yeah, my cousin was working in New Orleans as a chef and had to evacuate because of Katrina.
Well, I was in Myrtle Beach, Charleston when Hugo came through.
Oh, wow.
That's years ago. That was a trip.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So the show, we're telling our favorite hurricane stories tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Welcome to In Touch with Weather.
They said it's going to be an active hurricane season.
Yeah, I saw some report of that.
25, they think. I hope not.
Yeah.
Who I work for, that would affect us as far as claims.
Well, we got the one hurricane here a couple of years back.
Oh, here's the hurricane right here.
Yeah, Hurricane Jeff ready to blow you
Uh,
down. I could have taken that so many different
Yeah, you could
directions.
have.
Yeah, I'm very thankful you said you added down.
Yeah, well, you know, I didn't want to set your expectations too high.
Just like I was watching your session with Chuck on the Wacom tablet, and I says, "Hey, it's nice stylus on your, nice tip on your stylus." I was
I'm
thinking
so
of that when
proud.
you said
I'm
that.
so proud of you.
I was thinking of that when you said that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that locker room talk. I'll tell you.
That's why it's pre-show.
Yeah.
Hey, that wasn't
so-
locker room talk. That was all legit graphic design talk.
Oh, I know. You were very serious.
Yeah, right before the show, went to Sonic to get that Oreo cheesecake thing. I'm
Oh,
like,
God.
oh wait, I have to be on air in 20 minutes. Yeah, so I got home, shoved it right into the freezer.
I'm so glad that that you said freezer.
There's a metaphor right there.
I was
yeah.
getting
Right,
wondered myself.
right.
Yeah.
And hopped right on the call.
Oh my gosh. I got a Sonic right near my parents' house. I seem to go there every time I'm over there because I crave those tater tots and
Oh,
Sonic
those are so
burgers.
good.
That's
All
the
right.
only place I know of around me anywhere that has tater tots.
And
Yeah.
you can get them as the option without having to pay extra.
Yeah, you can just go right up to their little thing and say, "Bring me tater tots," and they
There you
go.
do.
I just do it on the app.
On the app, that's what I do. Yeah.
Then I
Right.
park right there, and then they just bring me tater tots. It's great.
I know, it's awesome.
I did it once just to see how it works, and I magically had tater tots in my car and in my mouth. I don't think there's
Oh.
much more that I can eat there.
That's right. You can't eat the burgers.
And their buns all have dairy.
Yep. I don't think that there is much. Corn dog.
But they
can't
do have
that
tater
one.
tots.
Yeah, you can't have the corn dog because it's got probably has dairy in that breading.
And it has beef in the dog.
Oh, that's right. You can't eat dogs. It's just. Oh my
know,
God.
I am so high maintenance.
You must be a fun date.
You know, as long
Hey.
as we pick the right restaurant, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
well, I
am.
mean, or you can skip the movie or skip the meal and go right to the movie.
Hey,
Right.
better
Yeah.
that than vegetarians. Hopefully, none of my family hurts because one is one.
Yeah. I've been out to vegetarian restaurants because it's actually pretty easy for me to eat
Right.
those places.
If
Although
it-
you do have to be careful because there'll be dairy and all kinds of stuff at vegetarian places.
Because they make up for it with that.
Mm-hmm. And when I've gone to a couple of those places with friends who are vegan,
Yep.
you know, for me, it's like, okay, let's look at the logistics. Work with me, people. Let's find something that isn't going to kill me. Awesome. Go team. Just go team. And
Go
the vegan
team.
friends are like totally offended that there's stuff that they can't eat.
Hmm.
I'm like, get over it.
Gotta get over it. All right, let's get going and get started here.
Yep.
We're at-
Last ride on a podcast for the 12 Pro Max.
That's right. Well, I'm going to have a special sub segment just for your new iPhone next week.
Before we
I'll
start,
Yeah.
I am very proud to announce that my COVID test is negative.
Thank God.
Awesome.
I had to rush out and buy a home test kit before the show because I wanted to do a test. I got a message from my parents just a little bit ago. Dad has COVID,
Oh,
Hmm.
boy.
and we were all together on Sunday, and so I'm like, well, shit,
Yeah.
I need to test right now. And so I had time to go buy the kit, come home, poke around in my nose, and get this thing going. And my timer just went off.
Good.
Either that or I'm not pregnant.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
Maybe
I-
dad turned positive for pregnant and you all took the wrong test.
Right?
I was
Could've been
about to
that.
say this. The second one is definitely true.
Right. Oh my God. Can you imagine though? Like, you'd have to do a C-section because the stretch
I was about
marks.
to say I can imagine. Look up Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. They did the whole movie, but yeah. But
and
we can't dilate that much.
all right, Ben.
Okay,
Can you check to
let's
see?
do
Make
this.
sure. Are you in the chat? Make sure that you see it.
Yep, I see the chat. I'm going to put a test message down right now.
Give me 1 second. The cat just managed to. I don't know. She's stuck. I'll be back. Hold on.
No problem. All right, good.
Oz, you're not getting stuck. You're gonna go
For
over on
some
the
rea-
couch and be a good boy the show. You got it?
Some reason I don't it doesn't show me how many people are in the room. I don't like refresh.
I
the
see
page.
3,
Yeah, for my page it doesn't show it. I don't understand why.
Kitty
4
down.
watching now.
Oh, it's like all of us. I do not know why. I tried a different browser too. I didn't try Safari.
Sorry for that delay. She managed to get one of her claws stuck in the couch, and
Ouch.
it was one of those things where if she managed to extract herself, it was going to be by actually ripping her claw off.
Hmm.
So this was a much better solution.
Yep, sounds like it. All
Okay,
right,
I'm done
let's-
screwing up the beginning of the show for now.
You didn't.
Hmm?
Let's do it. In 5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome to episode 307 of In Touch with iOS, this show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg, and we have Marty Gencius back on the show. How you doing, Marty?
It's been a long week. I'm glad to be back.
too.
This is like Funsville for me, especially with Ben and Jeff here, and you hosting it. You kind of move through things in a nice, good pace for all of us, and
Yeah,
so I'm glad to be back. But it's been a crazy week.
me too. But it's good to have Ben Rathik back. How you doing, Ben? Glad you're back.
I am fantastic.
Good to hear. So glad you're back on the show. Last but certainly not least, Jeff Gammett is here. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing great. Marty, with your red shirt and your microphone placement and its colors, is it okay if I just start calling you Mr. Incredible?
That reference is lost on me, but go ahead.
Pixar movie, The Incredibles, and the dad is Mr. Incredible. Their superhero costumes are red. with black and gold symbol on the chest, and you can see just enough
of the microphone. Yeah.
Where it was like, I'm hanging out with Mr. Incredible.
Thank you. I feel I feel in good company.
That is good. Let's go, and we are going to be talking about there's no beta yet. We're still waiting on that, but Apple did release another version of 17.5. We'll talk about that. Going to do a little more discussion on iPads, including we didn't really touch much on the 10th gen and the iPad Air, as well as a little debate on some of the things the Pro is doing, and all kinds of other stuff. But let's just go ahead and dig right into the topics this week. First off, iOS 17.5.1 was released. We did report last week that there's this pretty serious kind of crazy thing that was that it was showing old deleted photos that had resurfaced after the 17.5 update, and went as far back as 2010, photos surfacing again, which is kind of strange. So this did squash some of the bugs that this happened, and Apple did acknowledge it and took care of it. And now we have 17.5.1. Make sure you are updating all your devices under this. What do you think, guys? This was just a crazy, crazy little bug. I hadn't seen like something like this before. What do you think, Jeff?
I think that that the media should be making a bigger deal out of this.
Yeah.
Because the idea and the trust that we have in Apple is that when you delete a photo from your iCloud photos, you have actually deleted the photo. And to find that images that you deleted like all the way back in 2010 might be able to resurface tells me that we in fact do not have photos deleting. They're just being tagged in some way as deleted. And to me, that's a huge breach of trust.
Yeah.
And Apple has serious explaining to do. And I fear that the whole thing about my nudes, they suddenly showed up. Oh, we know is taking the spotlight from the real issue here.
Yeah, true. And the same thing happened with TVOS. It was upgraded to 17.5.1 because the same thing was happening. So very strange. How about you, Marty? What do you think?
You know, I've heard the story extended and extended. The first thing that we heard was it was all the not safe for work, the nudes that were coming up that were upsetting people. And then that sort of changed with how the story evolved. And the latest version of it that I've heard is that this was a on-device glitch. It wasn't that the pictures were hidden someplace and suddenly arose. Now, in my case, I'm a little disappointed because all of my nudes, when I did the upgrade, disappeared, and they were replaced. They were replaced by someone else's nudes. So it could be a bug or it could be a feature, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, Marty, I'm either sorry you got the photos or you're welcome.
And I'm sure Ben is worried about his nudes too and his photos, right?
Yeah, I think the big story here. No, sorry, Ben.
No, those surfacing would be a gift to society. But in all seriousness, as Jeff said, Apple has some serious explaining to do, especially since this was going back to like 2010.
Crazy.
They better explain why they still have these files, how this happened, and more importantly, why the F do they still have these files if they were deleted?
Yeah, true.
Even if they're just on device and not on cloud, they still have serious explaining to do on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing for me, the story was how quickly it went from nudes to just photos. And I mean, as soon as that came out, people started picking up and spinning it and spinning it and spinning it. And the mistake, I think, is Apple didn't put a stop to that by being transparent with what was going on, if they knew what was going on at the time or what was causing the problem.
Yeah, and I can guarantee I know why they have them. AI model training, but it's for a company that pushes privacy.
Right.
This is the
Mhm.
kind of a major invasion you would expect from Microsoft or Google.
Yeah, I don't think Apple's going to be very straightforward to what happened. They fixed the bug. They're going to move on, and we won't be talking about this anymore. It's probably one that's going to end up happening.
Yeah,
Um,
but we should.
so we should be, but I don't see it happening. The beta is probably going to be 17.6. We would anticipate that Apple would probably release at least one more version until WWDC, which I can't believe is in what 3 weeks from now. So we record. So it's there are some anticipated things that we're potentially going to expect from it, especially a better gaming experience, which streaming music, sharing, enhancing overall interaction. So game modes, smoother gameplay with reduced lag and stuttering. It's possible, and also potentially we're thinking maybe share play for HomePods and TV OS. Would it actually be seamless music sharing? We would hope. I think that's been a bit of the rumor that potentially might happen. Transferring music from other services or consolidating your music library, you have that capability as well, because those of us who are on Spotify versus Apple Music, you want to be able to transfer your music library over into playlists, so you don't lose all those playlists if you're deciding to move over. So at least to be a little more streamlined. So when is this going to get released? We don't know. We would anticipate, I would think, potentially next week after. But we'll see. We'll see when it will be released, and we'll be here testing it out and trying to see what new things come out in this. But for now, we're just going to see what happens here. So let's move on to the next topic here. Now, we did talk about the iPad Pros at great length last week with myself and Eric, who was here last week, as well as Marty, have the iPad Pro 13-inch, which we're absolutely loving. But show a little bit of love with the iPad 10 and the iPad Air. What is the big differences, and is it really worth between the two? It's about a $250 difference in price. So you have the iPad, you have the 10th gen is now at a $349 price point, whereas the iPad Air is at $599. So what is really the big difference as far as you're going here? I mean, processor for sure. I mean, it's going to be the biggest difference. You go from an A14 Bionic to an M2 chip. That itself is going to give you options. The fact that you have a 10.9-inch screen versus you have an 11 or a 13-inch choice, which is great. I think I was really happy to see Apple put the 13-inch beyond just the Pro. So you got more memory. You got the little bit of Wi-Fi improvement with the 6E. It does support the Apple Pencil Pro, which the iPad 10th gen is not. The 10th gen only supports the first gen Apple Pencil or the USB-C version, which I've done a review on the USB-C, and that pencil is gosh awful. So as I talked about, so really, I mean, what is going to be a big difference? They're still selling it in a 64 gig version at the base price for the 10 gen versus starting at 128 all the way up to 1 terabyte on the Air. I've always personally said that I think the Air is well worth the price, even if you got the base 128 gig model at $599. That's such a deal. But I'd like to hear what your guys' thoughts here. I'm gonna start with Marty here, since you have many iPads, and I'm sure you had an Air at one point.
I almost had the new Air. I told you it's been a rough week, and you shouldn't combine my stress levels and put me near a Apple store.
An Apple store.
Because I thought, okay, I want to find out about this Air, so I went ahead and ordered one to pick up, and then I reviewed it and thought, if I'm going to spend this kind of money, let me just kick in another 400 or so and get an 11-inch iPad Pro. So I now have two iPad Pros in different sizes. So I'm not
I
to
have two
speak
Macs.
on the, I'm not to speak on the iPad Air. I would say that for most folks, even the iPad 10th generation handles most folks' workflow.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Maybe they want to kick up the memory or the storage if they're going to try and do movies or store things on it that are larger. But in terms of the workload or workflow they're going to do, it's going to handle most people's needs. There are things about the Pro that I like. I mean, I like the idea that it unlocks. It has visual unlock, and I never got accustomed to that little button fingerprint sensor. That never seemed to work well for me, or it felt like I might as well just have a home button to open the thing up. So yeah, I think for 80-90% of the folks, the best deal there is the 10th iPad 10th gen.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of advice we generally are going to give to any friends or folks that ask. When they ask me where I work in tech as a tech support person, you're always going to get people to ask them, and they are interested in getting an iPad. Well, what would you pick? And I really do. You've got to want to find out what they're going to do with it. I mean, someone like you said just wants a simple iPad. I think for kids, it's amazing. I mean, I remember I did have somebody ask me, they don't want to spend a lot of money on an iPad, and then they were at a really low budget, so they decided to go. I suggested because the ninth gen was still and is still available. You could buy it in some places, which is the least expensive. You can get that for like $250. For a kid, that's so perfect. Granted, that has the lightning connector still, but do you think most people care about that? I mean, they still have their old iPhones that they can use the lightning cables that they already have. So, what about you, Ben? What would you say is between the Air and the 10th gen? Where would you go as far as suggesting
I
which
mean,
model to
to
go
be
with?
perfectly honest, unless you specifically want Pencil Pro capability or the 13-inch,
Right.
I mean, honestly, for 99.999% of the things on iPad OS, uh, the 10 is perfectly sufficient and will be for many, many years. I mean, but how, if you do want to, like, say, use your iPad Air as a second display for your MacBook, or looking for a larger display to watch movies on a road trip with the family, um, you know, the second gen, sixth gen, it is sixth gen, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
iPad Air 13-inch is an amazing value.
Yeah.
And I mean, with even that M2 being outrageously overpowered for what iPad OS is capable of,
Yeah.
it's going to be a good iPad for you and your family for a very long time.
I agree. And then with Jeff, you're still in your decision mode, or you're going to go with the Pro, which I know it's going to happen sooner or later. But what would you do? The same thing with when someone would recommend, or would you want to ask them and recommending one of these two models, the 10 or the 10th or the Air?
That iPad 10 is a really great deal for really good hardware. Here's the thing. People tend to keep iPads for a long time. And knowing that if you want to keep your iPad um, as functional as possible for as long as possible, um, I would say consider spending the extra money on the Air, so you have the newer processor and support for the newer Apple Pencil. Um, but I mean, for someone who just casually uses an iPad, that 10th gen is a great deal. Um, but I will say, I think overall the best bang for your buck is the iPad Air.
Yeah, no, that's what I always say. The Air is the greatest bang for your buck for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're looking in the 11-inch size,
Yeah.
can get
Yes.
your hand can get your
Yeah.
hands on a closeout M1 fifth generation iPad Air. That's gonna be a really good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And ironically, you just mentioned about people keeping their iPads for a long time. This topic I wanted to hit on is here's what Apple users do with their old iPads. The CIRP was revealing a growing percentage of iPad owners waited 3 years or more before upgrading their tablets. And they did a study to answer what those people were doing with their old iPads. The habits of Apple users show about 40% of the respondents said that they were waiting 3 years or more to buying a new Apple tablet. That number is up 4% from 2023 and 12% from 2022. The report just shows what iPad users are doing with their old tablets once they upgrade to the new iPad, and it's notably different from what people do with their old iPhones. The large portion of the users was 36% said they keep their old iPad with a second largest group, 31% said they're giving it to a friend or a family member. 23% said that the old iPad either lost or stolen or broken, and a small 6% fraction said they sold the old tablet, and 3% just said they just did a trade-in. So it is fascinating to take a look to see where people go with a lot of this stuff when it comes to this. And the trade-in values have been pretty amazing as of late. Apple's been very generous with their trade-ins. Of course, the older ones that you're probably going to get less and less. I mean, I've got an old, I think like a fourth gen or one of the really older iPad Airs that are pretty much. I mean, they're still getting like $100 for it. I mean, it still works, but of course, it only operates on that last one was like I think like iPad OS 15 or 14. So it's it varies. What do you think, Ben? What do you think with the old iPads? But I think this is definitely an interesting stat here.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. While you see some decent straight up trade-ins, you really don't see the kind of deals you see with phones on iPads.
Yep.
Also, I mean, they tend to be more consumption devices like reading the newspaper or social media or watching videos on the go. That stuff tends to have a little bit more longevity on that bigger screen.
Yep. And I would agree with the fact that the people are using it. The only disadvantage would be is with the OS as old as it gets, more and more apps are going to start becoming not supported anymore, depending on what you like to use. Jeff, you have an older iPad. You've been using it for a while, and we've always talked about this about the iPad and what you're going to do with it and what you've been using one for beta too. So, what do you think on this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when my old 10-inch iPad Pro doesn't support iPad OS updates anymore, which is probably this year.
Yep.
Then I will hand it down. My old iPads go to family members and friends, and I never even bother trying to trade them in or sell them.
They're just too old.
It's and the value that I get out of that iPad by handing it down, to me, is much higher than if I tried to sell it or trade it in. But the thing with people waiting 3 years or more, I want to see what that stat looks like for 5 years and more. And I bet the numbers are about the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. How about you, Marty? I mean, you're obviously you're upgrading iPads like us. No, I waited on mine, but I know you like upgrading every year.
I traded a bunch in to get credit to be able to get the iPads I have now. I think I still have an iPad somewhere in my closet over here back. It's by now probably 3 times its normal size. So it has zero trade. It has black pillows in it. Has no zero trade-in value. So I kind of am viewing purchasing equipment from what is this going to get me in resale? So I'll put more money up front and get a better, faster car, knowing that someday it's going to return. It's going to give me a better return in terms of resale. Frankly, another reason that I upgrade a lot was what do I do with old iPads? I feed them to my dog. My dog went through a period of time that she started with iPhones and then worked her way up. That the way she'd get our attention is to grab them off the table and then run
Oof.
around the house with them in their mouth.
Oof.
I've had relatives come over and have their phones taken by the dog. I have invested more in replacing people's phones from that dog than I care to admit. So
Oh,
where
my
do
gosh.
old iPads go? They go to my dog
Oh my gosh. That's
before
funny.
they're meant to go.
I think we have a show title.
This explains some of the rando photos that end up in my library.
Yeah.
They're clearly the inside of your dog's mouth.
That's great. So next topic I wanted to hit on real quick is we talked about this a little bit. I wanted to spend a little more time on it. Now, of course, we talked about the iPad Pro, the 11 and on the 13-inch comes in different sizes as far as space goes and such. I got the 512 gigabyte, and that's a 9-core processor, M4, and that's 8 gigs of RAM. But then you got the 10 core, which is the M4 at starting at 1 terabyte. Is there a big difference in, is it worth actually paying more for the iPad Pro on this? And I would say it depends on what you're doing. Macworld did a great article here showing some of the benchmarks in Geekbench, what between the 9 core and the 10 core on the M4, and there's not a dramatic difference in speed. I mean, it's a fair amount when it comes to that, but is it worth it? And then what you got to do is decide, what are you going to be doing with it? If you're going to be doing a lot of high intensive graphics and doing a lot of using the Apple Pencil and drawing and all that stuff, you might consider it. I know, Marty, you went with the
1
nanotextures.
terabyte. Yeah, I went with the textures on one, and
texture
both
screen.
of them are. Yeah, one of them are nano texture. One of them is the standard OLED, but both of them are 1 terabyte. And in that article, it makes some interesting points, which I know you'll post the link to it. But some of it says if you just look at it in terms of a memory upgrade, it's kind of a wash.
Yeah.
You're getting the CPU advantage, and you're getting the extra the extra RAM, I guess. But if you just look at what you're getting in terms of storage, the cost differential is the wash. So. And I don't think I thought through that when I bought it. It's just like, I'll do the 1 terabyte, and then
you want the space.
background, coming backwards, it's like, oh, okay, well, extra stuff. The CPU bump is nothing to scream about. I think it's 10%. But I know Jeff and David and Ben probably know the term for that, where they're shutting off. They're building a 10 core piece, and they're shutting off one of the cores. What's it called?
Binning.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I was going to say, I mean, if you're going to buy this iPad, if it's anybody who is just doing basic stuff, checking email, going on the internet, maybe the casual web, watching videos, you're not doing anything high intensive. Somebody like Jeff, who's as an artist who likes to be able to really push it to the limits, he's definitely going to be attracted to have to decide, is it worth that investment? I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, Jeff, because you haven't pulled the trigger yet, and are you thinking about it?
Well, for me, it isn't a matter of if I get a new iPad, it's a matter of when.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is it's about the storage.
Yeah.
That's it. Because all the extra core, the extra RAM, it's not going to make a bit of difference.
Right.
And even someone like me, and there's people that are way higher in power users, but for someone like me doing video editing and video rendering, sure, I'm going to see a performance improvement over my current iPad Pro, but the difference that I would get based on having that extra core and the extra RAM, it doesn't matter. There's nothing out there that fully takes advantage of iPad hardware anyhow. Doesn't matter. It's about the storage. And I'm sure there's people that are freaking out right now. How can you say that? But I mean, that's what it comes down to. Do I need 512 for storage, or do I need a terabyte? That's it.
Yeah.
Storage. I know what Ben's going to think because I know his big debate about the OS, and you really want to get Mac OS on an iPad, but
Yes.
if you were if you go ahead.
I think in that case it would matter potentially, but I mean Jeff has it exactly right. iPad OS and the iPad apps are nowhere near making use of any M series iPad. I mean, quite honestly, they may not even be taking full advantage of the A12 or the A12Z last generation.
I don't
iPad
think they
Pros.
are.
But
Yeah.
I mean it's gonna last longer because it's got Mac power, but
Mhm.
yeah, go do it because you get the storage upgrade, not the
I think-
processor upgrade.
And I would agree with you. I think the storage is the big thing. If you're going to use the iPad for a lot of photo storage, you're going to be, especially a photographer who uses it, and be able to have storage for files and videos and things that take up a ton of space. Yeah, then maybe you may want to lean towards the 1 terabyte version. For me, I thought the 512 was perfectly fine. I mean, I never maxed it out when I had 256. I mean, on the previous model. So, yeah, it's interesting to hear your guys' all perspectives on this. I mean, I think it's pretty much all over the map, and I mean, I think the space is really going to be the motivational factor here, is whether or not and not really be concerned about the processor or RAM here. So, let's go and move on to the next topic here. Is Apple Watch bands. I'm always curious how people keep their watch bands clean, and you can imagine how much bacteria and all kinds of are on some of these watch bands. I mean, hey, we sweat, it gets all over, and it's interesting the way the recent study here, this article, it says there's some pretty home dangerous bacteria on some of these bands, and what is it? How is it safe, and how is it safe to clean it? And they do go through some step by steps, and there's a lot of don'ts. Don't clean the band with an abrasive cleaner or cloth. Don't use Clorox wipes or alcohol, because that's good, especially with leather and the fabric bands. Don't soak leather bands in water or cleaners, and then don't use hydrogen peroxide. The best thing to do is use like microfiber cloths or similar. If you get the Clorox wipe, it should be only like about a 70% alcohol only. On the Solo Loop, the Sport Band, because I sport the Solo Loop, I really love it, and it's but sometimes it gets dirty. I've also found that maybe even using a little bit of soap, you could use like an old toothbrush and scrub the band and stuff. So, Ben, what do you think about cleaning bands? Have you done that before? Are you a thing you could think of that be different to what they're saying here?
I have made some futile attempts to clean my bands,
Yeah.
but to be perfectly honest, unless you're dealing with a like a nylon band or a metal band, if you have something like my knockoff nylon loop here,
Yep.
what's the old saying? Resistance is futile.
Yeah, because
You,
the
you pretty
knockoff
much just
bands.
have to, yeah,
Cheap.
you pretty much have to replace once it gets to a certain point.
Yeah, no, which I have had to do with this. My Solo Loop actually got stretched out enough that it was too big at some point, but then it was already a good size because I have a pretty good size wrist. So, how about you, Marty? Have you done any cleaning with your watch bands before? Anything you would suggest that you've tried?
Well, it's funny this topic has come up because I'm switching from the darker winter bands to the lighter spring and summer bands, and I particularly use the single loop band, but sometimes it gets hot and sweaty. With a lighter band, trying to clean those because they'll get dirty, as I will do like a toothbrush and
Yeah.
a little bit of abrasive. Sometimes with the cloth bands, I'll do all the things that they say you shouldn't do. Soak it in OxyClean for a while. It says in the article specifically, don't soak it. A lot of the articles seem to be focused on leather bands, and
Apple doesn't do it anymore.
well, yeah, but I mean, Hermes bands, you don't clean your own bands if you afford those bands. You give them to the butler, and the butler cleans them for you.
Yeah. Butler.
So I will, I'll abuse my bands. Again, it's always, I can always go and replace them if I need to replace them. But I clean them and then set them out to dry. And as I said, starting to look at the sun, starting to look at the summer, I switched to a lighter color bands and cleaned them before I put them back on.
Yeah. How about you, Jeff? Do you clean your bands?
I do. I think I'm kind of out of control, I guess. So my silicone bands like this, I hand wash with dish soap. And the dish soap that I have, it's like really mild. There's no perfumes or anything in it. And and it cleans up bands like this really nice. Then my fabric bands, I have one of those mesh like laundry bag things. I throw them in there and I run them through the washer with the rest of my laundry, but then I air dry them and they come out great. And it's not a problem. My leather bands, I will wipe them down with the damp cloth every now and then if they're looking kind of grungy, and then I immediately dry them off, and that's it. My metal bands, I guess I haven't worn them enough. My metal bands, I do not wear enough. And
At his effects is what.
That was awesome.
I've never cleaned them, and they look
Yeah.
fine. They work fine.
Yeah. Other than get a little bit of debris from your skin, from your sweat and skin, that kind of stuff. I've seen
The way this article reads, it reads, I don't know if you remember the old Saturday Night Live skit, Happy Fun Ball, where there's a whole series of warnings that you can't do, like warning pregnant women, the elderly, and children under 10 should avoid prolonged exposure to Happy Fun Ball. Do not use Happy Fun Ball on concrete. Happy Fun Ball contains a liquid core which, if exposed due to rupture, should not be touched, inhaled, or looked at. And then my favorite statement is, do not taunt Happy Fun Ball. And there's all these warnings of what you shouldn't and shouldn't do to clean your watch bands. And you have 4 people here who just abuse their watch bands and use dishwashing liquid and things like that. But Jeff, the suggestion that you did with the mesh bag, when I asked somebody in the Apple store that, they gave me that exact same suggestion. Just throw it in a wash.
Yeah.
So, let's go on to the next topic here. Have you forgotten about the action button on the iPhone 15? I kind of did. I know it's there. I programmed it with a different shortcut, but there's this really cool other shortcut that you can actually use. It's called the super shortcut. And basically what it does is it gives you action button that gives you all the extra toggled features that'll bring up a menu that allows you to be able to access all kinds of stuff. Because originally the action button was a on-off switch for to silence the ringer. That's pretty much all it was. But now this action button by default can have the different things, but you can actually program it by pointing to a shortcut. And this shortcut is interesting because it does bring up a whole menu of different items that'll come up with you, because all it does is it brings the menu up. You scroll through it, and then you pick whatever you want to do. Like it'll do silence for this. Of course, that's the most popular, to silence your ringer. It does a screenshot. You can start a video just by tapping the button. You can scroll through things. It even has, if you use Bitwarden, it's in here, a note, an event, VPN. It just goes through the whole list of stuff. Even added ChatGPT for that. That's new. So it's pretty cool. So I put a link in the show notes here as far as what it can do. iMore wrote up a great article here, and then also there's a link to the actual shortcut itself that allows you to be able to download the shortcut, and then you go through the steps of how to set it up, because all you basically have to go is go into settings and go into the action button and point it to that particular shortcut instead of using the default buttons here. Marty, have you used any of the action button much?
I don't use it. Well, I use it to silence my phone primarily, but before the show, I went in and added this shortcut. And I am not a shortcut engineer by any sense, but we have I think we have an article coming up about Shazam.
Yep.
And I thought, can I add that into this? So I opened it up, and not only are those shortcuts in there, the actions are in there already. You can
Right.
take them out, so
Right.
you can make that list smaller if you want. And
Mm.
there's a space at the bottom where you can add something in. Now, I tried to do that unsuccessfully, but probably someone who's better at engineering would be able to muck around with it. So it's interesting. I'm going to play with it for a while.
Yeah. How about you, Jeff? Have you done anything? Oh, do you have that? I forgot. You have the 15, right?
I never even got around to getting the 15.
Oh, that's right. You didn't. Okay.
Yeah.
What would you think of
but,
this?
I love the idea of having lots of flexibility in how you use these controls. I am, however, still bitter about this button changing from a mute switch to a multifunction switch. I mean, and that's because the reason the switch was a hardware physical, you're muted or you're not, was so that you didn't have to do all the ridiculous things that everyone had to do before to shut the ringer off on their phones. And this is still a phone. Well, I guess not anymore. So since Apple changed it to an action button, iPhone is no longer a phone first. It's
Yeah.
it's a pocket universal device that also happens to make phone calls. So it makes sense for what they did. So with that in mind, I will now step off my soapbox and say, I love that people are creative enough to come up with cool ways to let you do far more with these buttons than Apple had originally intended.
Right.
Let's fly our
Well,
pirate
at least they
flag.
do. I'm showing on camera. You can see that the menuing is kind of, they've made a pretty neat animation wise, and you can set it to the magnifier, translate, voice menu. These are all added here, but the shortcut thing is cool because you actually can link any shortcut to it if you wanted to. I mean, if there's a specific function that you do that a shortcut does, you could easily add that too. But I think this is cool. Ben will find out because we're going to talk to him next week when he gets his new iPhone 15.
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
And I already know exactly what that shortcut button is going to do.
Yeah, what is it going to do?
It's going to launch Halide instead of the all too limited iPhone camera app.
That seems
Okay.
totally legit.
Legit. So we have links in the show notes on how to do this and to access the action button. Most people may not want to do it. I mean, you can just set it for the ringer to turn on and off by default, and just you push it to turn on, push it to turn off. But it's a button that does have multiple features. Why not explore that? It'll make it easier to do those things. So I thought it was cool to check that out. So next story here. Apple this week actually announced in Apple Music, they revealed a top 10 albums of all time in their 100 best list. And they started with their top 10. And Lauryn Hill took the number one spot. And Apple does curate a lot of their lists, and then this week, this is actually a newsroom story on the Apple's website here to talk about it. And they revealed their top 10 albums of all time, and the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill was crowned number one. Upon receiving the news, Lauryn Hill told Apple Music, "This is my award, but it's a rich, deep narrative and involves so many people and so many sacrifice and so much time and so much collective love." So, artists, I'm sure, appreciate that they're being recognized by Apple with Apple Music. Apple Music has become pretty much a dominant force in the music industry with the way Apple Music and how many subscribers it is. Obviously, Spotify, as we all know, is the big gorilla in the room because they're a little bit larger than what Apple Music does. But I thought this was interesting to see what they put in the top 10 list. And they got a pretty good list of some of these some albums, like Songs in the Key of Life from Stevie Wonder from 1976, and Blondie, and Prince, and the Beatles, of course, was number 3 with Abbey Road, and Thriller. Michael Jackson was also there, which obviously we know that was one of the top albums of all time. So it's rather interesting to see what this does. So what do you think, Jeff, on this?
I thought it was an interesting list, and just to be annoyingly wow, pedantic for a moment, it was Blonde, Not Blondie on the list,
Was it blonde? I'm sorry.
or it's Blonde, yeah, by Frank Ocean.
My apologies. That was a mistake on my part.
Well, that's okay, but I mean, Blondie has some great music too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a really interesting list, and I'm glad that it wasn't just like an easy milk toast collection of albums.
Yeah.
Although I would put Purple Rain above Abbey Road.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stand on that hill.
Everybody's taste is different. How about you, Marty? Are you Apple Music listener? I'm assuming you think. What do you think?
You
of this?
know, I used to program at radio stations, and occasionally we do
Wow.
these annual best 100 albums of all time. And all this article did was convince me that as you get older, you realize you're less and less hip, that you're not in touch. And so when I looked at the list, I'm like, oh, so yeah, I might have programmed something more milk toast to Jeff's taste, but yeah, it was just it was a miss for me.
Okay. And maybe it is for Ben too, because I don't see too much metal in this list.
Yeah, let's see. Appetite for Destruction 52. I can't even find the Black Album. Who programmed this list?
Yeah. And so, I also put a link in the show notes to the actual Apple Music, because you can access Apple Music from the web and not have to use the music app. And it does have a neat little list that you can thumb through if you're signed into your account. And yeah, there's quite a long list, so it shows all the top 100s. But again, it's people's taste, and everybody has different tastes in music. But they obviously curated this enough that based probably on how much was listened to and other variables and factors. But no, I thought it was kind of neat.
I thought it was just their personal choices of, hey, we think these are the best albums.
Is that what they said? I thought it was. Yeah,
Black and Black 92, Old California 99.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
These people hate rock.
I mean, there's a lot that could have been on this list.
And as they say in the news release, the press release says Apple Music's 100 best albums is a modern 21st century ranking of the greatest records ever made, crafted by Apple Music's team of experts alongside a select group of artists, songwriters, producers, and industry professionals. So the list is an editorial statement fully independent of any streaming numbers in Apple Music. There you go. A love letter to the records that have shaped the world music lovers live and listened in. Okay.
Is it inappropriate for me to say this is Apple Music's navel gazing list?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's like the Academy Awards. A group of people get together and decide what's the best movie, which is why we never see the kinds of movies that people go to. So.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bit of a new music junkie and stuff. You look on my bookshelf here, I have right there here, I have all these old Billboard books and stuff. Joel Whitburn was always my go-to. I loved a lot of the books he did with all the charts he would compile, and he has he's since passed away, but he has an insane collection of records that I don't think anybody in the world has. Pretty much anything you can conceivably think of in every medium. And it's fun to see putting together playlists. I mean, I've created playlists of all the Billboard charts from the last 50 years or so, and just put together what the year end of each year. And it's always interesting to see where that music is. I think that's more of interesting to see on songs anyway, and then even albums for that matter. But yeah, the tastes are different. But hey, Apple can do this too, and I haven't heard anything pushed back yet on this. But yeah, it's Definitely interesting.
I'll give you the pushback on it. The way the logistics for how this works from a user friendly perspective
Mhm.
is really crappy,
Yeah.
because if you go to this in the music app, like on your Mac, it takes you to the website
The
for
website is
this.
horrible.
And yeah, so you're dealing with this on the website. Once
Right.
you've logged in on the website, and at that point you can push it back to the music app, but I feel like it's a testament to how poor uh, Apple Music interface still is.
Oh,
I
yeah,
just
break
asked ChatGPT to create a list of the best 100 albums from the 21st century.
Okay.
I won't read through them.
No.
They're generating right now.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that will be a subset of some of the stuff that's in here, because a lot of this is from the 20th century.
Yeah, I'll post it in our chat if you're interested.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. But let's go ahead and we will move on to that. So, I did want to talk about the Apple Card. They did change. I reported this a couple weeks ago that Apple was going to be sending out new replacement titanium Apple Cards from the original 2019 batch. I mean, I've been an original Apple Card customer. I think a few of us here have been as well since July of 2019. So July of 2024 was the expiration date. They went ahead and they did change I noticed the other day I got an email saying that they're changing the expiration date already. So it's moved it up to 2029. And then I was curious because I didn't get an actual confirmation that that the card was sent. So I reached out to the Goldman Sachs support at Apple support, and they said, "Oh yeah, it was shipped." And they sent me a link, and I to the FedEx, and I said, "Oh, that link doesn't work. It doesn't even say it exists." Oh, I got the link, but it's it just got generated as being shipped. So they are going to be replacing anybody who had the Apple Card from the very first when it first started out. I think I don't know if Marty or Jeff, you had the very first Apple Card when it came out, but I did.
I waited a little bit to get mine. I just, it's one of those things where I didn't need it until I was ready to get
Right.
something, and then it was like, oh, hold on, I'm in this Apple store. Hold on, let me do the application thing. Okay, great, got it. Now let's buy. So mine actually expires, I think, next spring.
Okay, so then you probably end up getting a new card eventually too. So
Yep, it's coming, just later than yours.
you you had an Apple Card too, Marty?
Yeah, I do. I don't think from looking online, I don't think mine doesn't expire until 2027.
Okay.
I wish they had Apple Care for Apple Cards because mine is getting a little bit dingy, and
You can
maybe
always ask for replacement.
they should ask, I should ask for ask for an article on how to clean your Apple Card. I got it, and when it was, for me, it was like, look, friends, I can cut steak with this thing. But
Well, that's why you need to clean it.
yeah, I didn't, but I could have. I'm kind of jealous that you're getting a new card because I think I
Yeah.
used mine enough and put it through the war. I think maybe I got mine in 22, something like that.
Okay.
Marty, instead of Apple Care, you have Goldman Sachs Don't Care.
Yeah.
Yeah, put it in the wash, then you have Goldman soaks. I'm sorry, that was a really bad joke. I apologize.
Yeah. Couple more things I wanted to talk about here. I was going to mention, I did notice that when I upgraded to 17.5, that my all of a sudden my iPhone, the voicemail stopped working, and I didn't. And originally I thought it was just something with the phone itself, so I just let it go. And then of course it drives me nuts when we all don't like to see the little number on an icon saying you have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. on anything. At least I don't. I like to clear them off. So it turned out that some sort of bug after it was updated caused it to have to be reset. So I went through the hard reset of the iPhone, like we've
Oh.
talked about before, and I cleared it up. So I included a link in the show notes with an article that describes how to do that, and it did clear it up, and then I was able, because I did miss a voicemail for a day, and I didn't see it, so which was kind of irritating, but it happens. But be aware of that. I don't know if you guys have experienced that at all.
No, I'm having trouble with this article from an editor's standpoint.
I had this feeling, well, it is Apple Insider, and
Yeah.
isn't it? Or no, it isn't.
No, it's iGeek's blog.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I didn't experience the bug. If I don't get a lot of phone calls, but you might consider this a bug, I see it as a feature.
A feature.
Yeah.
Yeah. I knew you were going to say that. So before we wrap, I wanted to have hit a couple news stories here. And T-Mobile is going to be, the people are anticipating potential raising of prices if you have some of the older plans. They revealed that they're going to be increasing the plans in the U.S. between $2 and $5 per line. You'll get a notification by text saying that it's that they're going to be doing this, and there's going to be some limitations to this, because if you had the price lock, you won't be affected, so just be aware of that, that they are going to be doing that. But I don't think I'm affected. I'm on the Magenta plan, which is one of the older plans, so it looks like we'll be okay.
Is
The other thing,
the one that relatively recently pulled a Darth Vader and said, the plan you have, we're changing it on you, which means your price is changing?
yeah, and I think they got a ton of pushback, so it
Yeah.
And they changed it back.
And had to change it back. Oh, yes. They're like, sorry, that wasn't actually a thing. We were just doing some internal testing, and it wasn't supposed to be.
that was them. Yep.
Yeah.
Same thing with, there's some lawsuits with Sprint, with the Sprint merger too. So, but overall, I've been happy with T-Mobile. A couple more here. Apple is increasing old iPhone trade-in values for iPhone 15 customers. It's going to be a limited time here. You'll be able to trade in when customers buy any iPhone 15 model in the U.S. and Canada. This was reported through Mark Gurman on Bloomberg. I definitely trust his wisdom on this stuff. Currently, you're going to be able to get, if you go up to a 14 Pro Max, they're still giving up to $630 for that, and then $520 for a 14 Pro, and all the way up. They're still taking trade-ins of even the third gen of the iPhone SE for $160. I mean, the 13 mini, it's $270, but I think it's worth a lot more for a lot of those mini customers out there who want to keep on their phones there. But this is good to see. I think the trade-in values have really, I mean, I got a pretty good amount when I traded in my iPad Pro M1. I got back about $385, which was pretty great. So I think they've been doing really good things with the trading values here with their products. The same thing with Macs too.
Yeah, this sealed the deal for me, getting the 15 Pro Max.
Yeah. And finally, I wanted to hit this one story. And Marty, you mentioned this earlier, is about the Shazam app. It's now going to be supporting live activities for seamless background multitasking. And it is updated to 17.11, which will add that support. If you own a 15 or 15 Pro model or the 14 Pro, you'll now be able to keep Shazam's music detection running in the background via Dynamic Island while doing other things on your device. So that was what really was set up in 2022 when the 14 Pro got the Dynamic Island with the live activities. So this is kind of cool. It's going to stay in the background and be able to run. You had a comment you wanted to say on that, Marty, about the Shazam?
Yeah, for me, my standard way of getting Shazam is to realize there's a song playing that's about halfway done. Then I have to unlock my phone. Then I have to find out where the Shazam app is. And by the time I get to it, the song's fading out and I don't get the song anyways. So the idea of having it potentially running in the background when I'm in a place where there's going to be music that I might not be familiar with, but might enjoy, it seems like a plus.
Absolutely. Guys, Ben or Jeff, do you use Shazam at all?
Not much for the exact same reason, but honestly, this is awesome in Apple. This is your own app. Why wasn't this available 6 months ago?
Or a year ago.
Yeah.
I actually use Shazam a lot, and for me, it's, "Hey, yes, lady, what's this song?" I do that all the time, and uh, adding more features to make this more useful for more people, great. Should have happened a while ago, but at least it's happening now.
Absolutely. All right. And then before we go, we got to still talk about MacStock. MacStock 8 is here. It's July 12th through the 14th, the MacStock Conference and Expo. It's going to have just an amazing cast of characters, including myself speaking, and Marty Jensies and Jeff Gammett's going to speak. This guy, Chuck Joyner, is going to speak. Dave Hamilton, I'm excited to see him again. Allison Sheridan. And Jill McKinley, and so many others are going to be speaking. It's just an exciting time here. Marty, you're going to be doing the workshops on the first day on the 12th. This is brand new. You're going to be able to get into this pass, which will include 4 90-minute productivity boost workshop sessions on that Friday. I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. You said you're going to be doing it on AI, I believe. On the workshop,
sort of
right?
practical applications for workflow and the kind of things that people do with jobs that AI could help them with.
That's great. And Jeff, are you what was you already have your topic announced?
Yeah, my topic's on the MacStock website. I'm going to be helping people figure out how to get started with smart home tech without getting super pissed off.
That's right. So you'll have 2 choices of registration. You have the weekend pass if you only wanted to go for just the 2 days on Saturday and Sunday. That's $299. That's a bargain for all the great sessions you're going to get. But why not go for the full 3 days? It's going to be such a blast. That's $399, including the workshops, including the Saturday and Sunday sessions. The MacStock Film Festival, and the lunch is going to be includable all those both those days, and you were also going to get, of course, the T-shirt. I've got my collection of T-shirts from day one. I keep them all in a neat place
That's
here.
awesome.
I've been to every single one of them, including the MacStock mugs. I have my collection of those too. So I mean, I've been to every single MacStock. Hopefully, we're going to get Ben to come. I'm hoping he's going to come join us. He's still crossing his fingers on that, but we're going to have an absolute blast, and we're going to be seeing a lot of great friends. And you can come meet us, have fun, network. It's just going to be an absolute blast. So make sure you go to MacStockConferenceandExpo.com to register. Because you're an In Touch with iOS listener, if you use the special code of In Touch with iOS in the coupon code box when you go to register, you're going to get $30 off because you're an In Touch with iOS watcher and listener. So be sure you use that code, and that means it will show that you heard about it here on In Touch with iOS. So come check us out. We're going to have a heck of a lot of fun here. So that's MacStockConferenceandExpo.com, and we hope to see you. And it's going to be only, 50 some days left. Oh my God, it's 49 days.
Holy crap.
I think we better start tuning up our presentations here. I got to get going
And
here.
tuning up, I've got to start my presentations.
Okay, I'll admit it. I have to start mine too. But we'll have them all fine-tuned and started, ready to go here. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So come join us.
So you're saying I'm ahead of you guys? I have
Yes, you
lots
are.
of notes. I just need to put everything in order and figure out my flow.
There you go. That's why we're all
Lucky you.
professionals when it comes to this. Yeah, you're ahead of us. So come join us. We would love to see you. And with that, let's go ahead and wrap up for this week. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Mastodon at intouchwithios, at tickhangout.social, support the show by buying me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We would really appreciate it. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/intouchwithios. We have 2 tiers available to support the show. We would really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you are notified when we are live streaming, which is Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/intouchwithios, where you can watch the current and past live streams as well as listen to past shows. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics we discuss are flipped into that magazine. Link is in our show notes. You can subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher, including Pocket Casts, Overcast, Apple Podcasts with transcripts, and many others. But better yet, go to our website, which is intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us is on that website. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Mastodon, which is at DaveG65 at mastodon.cloud. Marty Jensius, again, such a pleasure. 2 weeks in a row to get to enjoy having you here. I'm so glad you were here.
I really enjoy being here, and enjoy being with the great panel that you've got together. So you can find me at Jensius at mastodon.social. Also 3 different podcasts that I'm involved in. Circular Firing Squad, which is if you like this kind of chat, that's the process with Circular Firing Squad, not about technology, but about counseling and life questions. And then Tech Savvy Professor, I do with a colleague of mine on how to use tech in academic settings. And then the latest is Vision Profiles with Eric Bolden, where we have guests and take a look at the Vision Pro.
Yeah, I saw you had Dan Wasick, and this past week he's been on the show before, and he's very I know he's a big supporter of Apple user groups, and does have great site Dan tutorials. Yeah, so it's great.
Yeah, and he's playing around with Apple Vision 2. So I actually ran into him at a user group, known him for a while, but ran into him at a user group, and we both had our Apple Vision Pros on. So we started a conversation around it. So
it's a great show. Great show. Thanks for being here, Marty. Jeff Gamet, so glad you're always here, and appreciate you supporting the show and being here and giving everybody all your infinite wisdom. Where can people find you?
Well, I always have a blast. So thank you for inviting me and letting me continue to come back. All right. So social media, I'm Jay Gamet. I'm active on Mastodon, Instagram, and Threads. Excuse me. Then for shows, Tuesdays on Chuck Joyner's Mac Voices Live, here with you on Thursdays for In Touch with iOS. On the British Tech Network, The Big Show on Thursdays, The Mac Show on Fridays, and then also Brent Chaffin and I do The Context Machine.
All right. Thank you so much, Jeff. And last but certainly not least, Ben Rathick, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And where can people find you?
Well, Dave, you can find me at Ben Rathick on social media. Currently, you can also find me on Mac Voices Live, Chuck Joyner, and every Thursday here on In Touch with iOS with Dave Ginsburg.
Great. And then we're looking forward to hear about your iPhone 15 when you get it all set up, and hopefully we'll get to talk about it. So, but until then, I appreciate everybody being here, listening, watching, and enjoying the show, because we enjoy doing it. And until next time, we'll talk again soon. All righty. Great show, guys.
Well, that was loads of fun.
thanks.
It was. I was going to check Apple Music, and of course I pulled my drive out, and I think I had a glitch in the show. Yeah, I guess you do have to go to the site. Yeah, you're right, because you click the link from Apple Music, and it goes right to the website. Oh, brother. Why would they do that?
Did you take a look at the list that the link?
That was an interesting list.
Oh,
Yeah.
You have the link. Okay, there it is.
I have to deal with my kitten now.
All
He
right.
tried to push my MacBook right off the desk.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a problem child right there.
Is
Yes,
it
he
time
is.
for an upgrade?
Yeah.
Oh, he's going to get it downgraded in about a week and a half. Snip, snip.
Snip, snip.
Oh, shout
That'll
out.
show him.
And there I was so distracted. I didn't even see people in the chat. Thanks everybody in the chat if you're still there. Thanks for Guy. See Guy in the chat room and Cletus.
Yeah.
So, Thanks for being out there. I appreciate it. I missed all that. Sorry about that.
Looks like Guy and Cletus are going to
Are
be
both.
at Max Stock.
Yep.
Yeah, guy.
so that's cool.
So that guy is coming. Great. Can't wait
Yep.
to
He
see him,
used the
guy.
discount.
Use my discount, did you say?
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Awesome. Thanks, Guy. Appreciate that. I think Cletus already purchased his ticket.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
he says in there he did before right off the bat, so he didn't get the discount.
Still worth it.
Still worth it, buddy. You're supporting a good conference. So,
Mhm.
but I will go say goodbye to the live stream. Goodbye, everybody.